Welcome everyone to History Gone Wilder, part of Have History Will Travel. I'm your host, the Wilder historian, Dr. Lucas Wilder, and last time I set up the Battle of Spotsylvania Court House with Joseph Kershaw and Charles Field's divisions from Anderson's Corps battling with divisions of Charles Griffin and John C. Robinson of Warren's 5th Corps over the Brock Road. Now the battle expands as more troops are rushed to the intersection of that road and the old courthouse road. If you like what I do, please consider subscribing to the channel if you haven't done so already. Join the Patreon page, and purchase something from the Teespring store or Etsy shop. Every little bit helps. Thank you. Major General Governor K. Warren had been a rising star in the Army of the Potomac, and when Ulysses S. Grant placed his headquarters with that army, he had great hope in that commander, and even believed he would be a good replacement for the Army commander George Meade if that was needed. However, the first 2 weeks in May dashed Grant's optimism about Warren. The 5th Corps commander was hesitant in the wilderness, and now, in the opening stages of the Battle of Spotsylvania Court House, he had thrown his brigades in piecemeal against an entrenched Confederate line. Warren informed Meade that he was now entrenched, but Meade wanted him to attack. Warren's divisions were just too bloodied from the fight on the morning of May 8th. However, Meade informed him that John Sedgwick and his 6th Corps was on the way to support Warren. After a brief stopover at Chancellorsville, where his men ate lunch, Sedgwick's men marched on to join Warren in the quickly erupting battle. The hesitant Warren would wait on Sedgwick. Ambrose Burnside's 9th Corps was following Sedgwick's corps, and Winfield Scott Hancock's 2nd Corps moved south to Todd's Tavern. One of Sedgwick's soldiers remembered the hard march in the May heat. The heat was intense, the undergrowth shutting off any breeze, the dust ankle deep and light as air, so that the atmosphere was filled with it. Many of the men suffered from sunstroke, fallen in the ranks, and were lifted to the roadside by comrades. Ewell's corps slipped behind Anderson's troops and moved to the east. Hill's corps would be the last to start marching toward Spotsylvania Court House, leaving around 3 p.m., but not with Hill at its head. Prostatitis debilitated Hill so much so that he needed to be temporarily replaced. Lee would choose Jubal Early to take command of Hill's corps. Ewell placed his divisions to the right of Anderson's men. Both Meade and Grant wanted Warren and Sedgwick to attack the Confederate line immediately, but Sedgwick wanted to be briefed on the situation in his front from Warren, so the attack was delayed. At around 6 p.m., Warren rode up to the New Jersey Brigade near the Brock Road and ordered it forward. The 3rd New Jersey was in a skirmish line, with the 15th New Jersey in line of battle behind them. When they stepped off, they found they were the only ones moving forward. The men from New Jersey miraculously made it to the breastworks of the rebels, but because both of their flanks were exposed, they couldn't remain there long, and retreated back across the field. The attack wasn't just supposed to involve the men from New Jersey. Brigades to their right and left were supposed to move out as well, but Sedgwick's men to the left were called off from attacking, and the ones to the right didn't move either. Another attack was being planned, which would see the brigades of Joseph Fisher and William Talley from Crawford's division, and a conglomeration of regiments from Schweitzer's and Bartlett's brigades, made up of the 20th Maine, 118th Pennsylvania, 16th Michigan, and some soldiers from the 9th and 22nd Massachusetts, all led by Colonel Charles Herring of the 118th Pennsylvania. The men were poised to strike the right flank of the Confederate line, but some of Ewell's brigades were making it to the field before the attack was made. At 6:30 p.m., the 3 brigades stepped off to attack the Confederate flank, but ran into Benjamin Humphrey's Mississippians, supported by Cullen Battle's Alabamians. Major General Robert Rhodes, Battle's division commander, rode up to his old brigade and yelled, "Boys, you played hell the other evening. Now, when the order is given, I want you to run over those Yankees in front." The Alabamians attacked and sent the front line under Talley to the rear, but Fisher's line made a stubborn stand. However, the growing darkness made Fisher afraid that who he was firing on were members of Talley's troops, so he ordered a ceasefire. Battle kept up the gunfire, and Fisher's men melted away, leaving the brigade under Herring alone. Herring wouldn't be outdone and ordered his regiments to throw volleys into the Alabamians. Each side kept up a steady fire, killing and maiming a good many. The 61st Alabama approached the flank of the Union Brigade, but the 16th Michigan blocked their flanking attempt. A member of the 20th Maine remembered, "Our men were in just the right mood to fight, weary, hungry, discouraged, mad. In such a condition, it is as easy to die as to run," and so they decided to hold their position until ordered to leave. A Confederate wrote of the melee, Swords clashed and revolvers that had never left their holsters to be discharged in anger were freely used. Shouts, yells, imprecations heard above the noise of battle were incessant. Alone, a mile beyond relief, menaced by death or captivity, the men were in a mood to fight and fight hard. Front, rear, and flanks were lost in the whirl. Organization was gone. Each man depended upon himself. Darkness increased the confusion, and the result hung upon personal tenacity. Shouting helped to encourage the combatants, and ours, deeper, louder, more determined, was the most assuring. As Battle and Herring engaged in a fierce fight, 3 more Union brigades assembled for an attack. Henry Eustis's brigade began to act erratically, and when Sedgwick asked what was wrong, the commander of the 37th Massachusetts said that Eustis was drunk and that he could organize the men himself. Sedgwick agreed, and Eustis was walked back to the rear. The 3 brigades advanced, but the darkness and the foliage made it difficult to keep the battle lines together. One soldier remembered that his regiment advanced from half to 3/4 of a mile, and the enemy developed in such strong force that, owing to the approach of darkness and the weariness of his men, he concluded it best not to force the fight, and withdrew his attacking lines a short distance. Some brigades slowed down, and others sped up. More brigades from Robert Rodes's division counterattacked. Both sides fired volleys, but it was difficult to fight in the darkness. Confusion ran rampant through the ranks, and then faded away as both sides pulled back, except for Herring, whose brigade would remain out front until 3 a.m. General Meade fumed with anger about how the day's actions went. He targeted nearly everyone in his complaints to his aide. Burnside moved too slowly. Sedgwick hadn't come up soon enough. Warren was hesitant and cautious, and he even believed that the always dependable Hancock had failed to take the initiative in his movements toward the Union position on the Brock Road. Anderson and Ewell's men got their men quickly to the field and prepared breastworks when placed on line next to their comrades. The next day, May 9th, Burnside would make it to the Union left flank, and Hancock made it to the right flank. Hoping to turn the Confederate left flank and capture a rebel wagon train rumbling along the Shady Grove Road, Grant and Meade ordered Hancock to attack across the Po River. First, just a few brigades went across, fighting with Confederate cavalry. More brigades went across on orders from the Army commander. However, Ambrose Wright's Confederate brigade of Georgians, also guarding the wagon train, stood in the way of the Federal Corps. Once the wagon train made it across the Blockhouse Bridge, Wright pulled back across the bridge as well. Grant instructed Hancock to cross the bridge, but by the time his corps was prepared to cross, it was 10 p.m. Hancock sent a message to Meade requesting orders. Meade told Hancock to prepare to cross at first light on May 10th. May 9th had been for the most part quiet, except for the attacks by Hancock. Both sides dug in for protection. John Sedgwick, the 6th Corps commander, was placing his troops near where the 2 branches of the Brock Road converged, where the opening phase of the battle erupted. Sharpshooters played havoc in that area, especially Confederate sharpshooters. Sedgwick noticed that a regiment from New Jersey had been placed in front of some artillery, and ordered his aide to move them out of the way so the artillery could fire without hitting their own men. As the men began throwing up breastworks, sharpshooter bullets began to whiz by the men's heads. The Federal soldiers jumped for cover. Sedgwick saw this and stated, "What? What? Men dodging this way for single bullets? What will you do when they open fire along the whole line? I am ashamed of you. They couldn't hit an elephant at this distance." A moment later, Sedgwick tumbled from his saddle, shot just below the left eye, killing him instantly. Meade placed Horatio Wright, the senior division commander, as commander of the 6th Corps. Previous to the Overland Campaign, Wright served as an engineer overseeing the building of fortifications around Washington, D.C. and along the coast. Then he was sent west in 1862. There he commanded the Department of the Ohio until being replaced by Ambrose Burnside. In May 1863, Wright would come back east and be given a division command in Sedgwick's 6th Corps just in time for the Gettysburg Campaign. Grant, Meade, and Lee's plans for May 10th would make a bloody day during the Overland Campaign, as each side tried to exploit a weakness in the other.